Hey there. Thanks for clicking on my channel. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and I am just another of one of the thousands of critics, I'm sure, on YouTube posting reviews about The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episode 1, now available on Amazon Prime, just in case you missed all of those commercials. I'm also uniquely a blind film critic, so I'm going to be talking to you about audio description and how the audio description serves this series well, or perhaps it doesn't. So let's get into the nitty-gritty, as those hobbits will say. They wouldn't say that, but yeah, so as far as how familiar I am, just to give you a point of reference, with The Lord of the Rings, I read the 3 books, read Lord of the Rings. Interestingly, did not read The Hobbit. I've seen all of the movies available. I actually even believe I've seen the animated movie. Like, I feel like I fever dream that sometimes, but I think I did when I was young. I think I saw the animated Lord of the Rings, but maybe I didn't see it. I don't know. So yeah, I have the extended editions. But it's been a minute since I've seen them. I don't watch them religiously. I'm not emotionally attached to them. I like them. I think Lord of the Rings is an achievement in cinema. I think the fact that Peter Jackson took a bunch of people to New Zealand and shot 3 films, hoping all would work, and they turned out as brilliant as they did because of all the craftsmanship that was put into the project at the time, was something that we should be talking about cinematically, probably for the rest of the time anybody talks about cinema, until we evolve into, I don't know, something else and move to another planet. But it's just sort of a uniquely amazing experience that he did. I think he even inspired, to be honest, James Cameron to do what he did with Avatar, to see somebody do something like that, because even they shot like 2 Pirates films back to back, so it kind of started that trend. But to get into the series, this takes place before all that, before all the shenanigans. However, they don't want you to be totally lost. They're not trying to House of Dragon you and make you like a whole bunch of people you've never heard of. So welcome Galadriel into the world of Rings of Power. For those who at least are looking for a connection from the films, from what they have seen before into this, Galadriel will be your connection. Likely that will be the main connection. They're also, Sauron is what there seems to be the main villain setup, and not when he's like an eye hovering above a mountain, but something else. We don't really know what. It doesn't really say, but he's definitely, I don't know that, they're definitely not looking for like a mountain. So, and it's not Saruman yet. So, at least as of episode 1. So they've got a couple of ties. You spend most of the time with the elves. There's a little bit of time spent with hobbits, and a little bit of time spent with humans, with the men. And that's kind of what you get in the first episode. I don't really want to spoil anything. I know I put spoilers on here, but I really want people to discover this, because one of the things that this show does really well is it crafts a story from the beginning. It has exposition that is well told, in a way where, yeah, kind of at the very beginning it feels a little bit like exposition, because it is. It's literally just like a narrator kind of welcoming you to the show and letting you know, like, hey, years before, and this is what's going. But it kind of evolves, and naturally, so that way you know that the story is kind of taking its own path to introduce you to the world. And J.A. Bayona, who has done some good work before. He's done a really impressive job here with the pilot. I don't know if he's directing all of the episodes of Rings of Power, but he did a really good job with the pilot here, making sure that you are able to see all of the main players, the characters. I felt more entrenched in this series than I really thought I would after the first episode. I really felt like I knew like what was going on and what the plan was and what the characters were and who I was rooting for. Of course, having Galadriel helped because I immediately had a character from the series to follow. So that's something different. But I really enjoyed that. I think there's, I think there's probably another side for those of you who can see that visually, I don't know. I don't know what this looks like. I don't know if it looks like the films in the movie. I'm going to assume it looks good, but not necessarily as good as some of the other stuff. I've heard that as we continue to rush production on things, we're in this peak content. They're cutting corners on a lot of things. And I've read a lot of articles about the differences between how Lord of the Rings was made versus how Rings of Power was made. And it seems like most of the corners were cut in terms of costuming and props. And I just don't know how noticeable that is. But from an audio description perspective, what I will say is, this one's tough for me because I would say Rings of Power is a solid series to watch if you've never seen Lord of the Rings, or The Hobbit. It does a pretty good job of world building without expecting you to have seen anything prior. Even by referencing Galadriel, you don't really need to know her background in order to know what she's doing, because this is everything that comes before anything that ever happened before you've seen her character. So if you're new to Lord of the Rings, that's fine. You can actually touch base with this show, and I think you'll be fine. So I don't think this is a series where you're going to get yourself lost. Even if you just have like a basic understanding over the years, just from pop culture references of what a hobbit is, I think you'll be fine. But the audio description also assumes that you will be. I did notice that the audio description tends to lean heavily into traditional audio description narration and not really into what I would consider audio description narration that helps shape a fantasy series with multiple races of characters, being able to describe what those characters look like. It treats it a little bit the same way that Star Wars does with some of the characters. When you track the Star Wars description throughout the course of the movies, at a certain point you sort of realize, if you watch them out of order, there isn't a lot of description given to characters or races or anything like that, because it kind of assumes that you know what these people look like. So if you want the most description, you have to kind of go back to the source, like the first time a character is introduced, in order to really get the best description possible for that character. This one doesn't really do that. This one just touches base on a couple of things that make maybe an elf different, by letting you know they have pointy ears, and hobbits by letting them know that they're small with big feet. I think there's more to that. It's hard to encapsulate that as somebody who saw The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies and read the books. It just kind of feels like really reductive audio description, and it focuses a lot on stuff that we would focus on in really any series, in terms of, you know, like facial expressions, reacting to things, you know, you know, there really wouldn't be a difference between like a medical drama and the description for Lord of the Rings, is what I'm saying. Like the narration for Grey's Anatomy and Lord of the Rings would be fairly similar. It's not a huge difference. I wasn't even sure, and I don't know how they would put that in there, but I know that supposedly there's like the first Black Lord of the Rings character and introduced in this series, and I don't know which one that is. So I don't know how they would have put that in there, but just the difference in sort of highlighting the differences. The elves were very like pale skin, sort of Orlando Bloomish looking. No, I realize you guys don't know what Orlando Bloom looks like, but everything kind of had a look before, and you kind of knew what it was. You know, Peter Jackson crafted, maybe it was a very white, you know, look, and he didn't cast a lot of minorities or any, but there was a look between all these different things, and there's not a whole lot of attempt made at giving you the visual aesthetic of Middle-earth. Just glimpses at it, just little bits, which makes me think that this description assumes that those who are watching the show are fans already. I don't know that the narration is best served for anybody who is coming in cold. That's my only thing. So I don't mean to be too harsh, but I did kind of pick up on that. I was like, oh, I'm following it. But then again, I followed the whole thing, and as I was listening to it, I was like, I don't know. I probably would have done that introduction a little bit better, or given a little bit more description into the costuming, and when they enter these facilities, when Galadriel returns home, not really home, but returns to where the kings are, I would have given a little bit more description to how that whole place looked. And we didn't really get a whole lot of that. It just kind of is. Kind of like when somebody walks into a room and it's just kind of a room. But that's not the point of this series. This series is a fantasy series. So we have to know what everything looks like, because it doesn't have necessarily a basis in reality. Anyway, it's not bad description. It's just, it could be better. So, that's it. That's my opinion. That's why you come here, is to know what is it like for blind people to watch things. That's why I have such a low subscriber count, is because blind people apparently don't like to watch anything. Anyway, I really like the show, though, so I hope anybody who likes Lord of the Rings and is visually impaired takes a giant leap and goes with the show. I thought the pilot is amazing. It's just like House of the Dragon's pilot, just knew exactly what to do. I mean, those are two expertly crafted pilots within like weeks of each other. This is pretty perfect. So I'm excited to see where it goes, and the world that it's created for itself. And hopefully we'll be on an unexpected journey. I'm going to give Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episode 1 an A. That's it for me. And hopefully you'll continue to stick with me. Thanks for those who stayed this long into my review. I know it's a little longer than usual. you can visit my website, macthemovieguy.com, for more of my reviews. You can go to the Audio Description Project, adp.acb.org, for what to watch, what service it's on, what has audio description, that kind of thing. And the adna.org is basically IMDb for the people who do narration, because they're not really allowed to be on IMDb. So check that out. It's really fun to learn about the people who do the narration that we know and love. That's it for me today. I got to review something else, and I will see you on the other side.